All right, so now we're going to flip over and do the back side of the hand. So if you remember from anatomical position, this is posterior, so it's the posterior compartment. So what action are those muscles going to do? They're going to do wrist extension and finger extension. And then again, since they're coming across the elbow, they're going to do a little bit of elbow extension, but that's not their primary motion. The primary motion is going to be wrist extension and finger extension. Okay, so based on the names of what we had on the flexors, what could you guess would be going to be some of the names of the extensor muscles? Right, we're going to have something that's probably going to go right here. So what would you call that? Extensor, carpi radialis, and then over on this side, extensor carpi ulnaris. Right? And then something that's going to extend the fingers, what would you call that one? Extensor digitorum. And then we'll have some special ones to go to the thumb. And actually, in this case, there's also another special one that goes to the index finger, so it's extensor indicus. So again, most of them are going to come up of this area here. Okay, so if we're looking at the back side of the right, this is the left. So we're looking like this at the back side of the right hand. So most of them are going to come off of here, off of the lateral epicondyle. And then there's going to be some of the deeper ones that are going to come off of a combination of the radius and the ulnar, and then the interosseous membrane that goes in between the two. So these are going to be the more superficial muscles here, and then these are going to be the deeper ones here. So then the superficial layer is going to be extensor carpi radialis. In this case, we have a longus and a brevis. So there's extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis, and then extensor digitorum, and then extensor carpi ulnaris on this side. Yeah, so these are going to be the more superficial ones that come off of the lateral epicondyle, and they're going into the crossings of the wrist. Okay, so here's the extensor carpi radialis longus. So here we're starting a little bit higher up. I mean, they kind of all come from this area, but that's going to be this one right here. You see, there's a bundle that's here, but then there's also another muscle that's a little bit of a bulge here. Because here's your brachioradialis right here, and then right there is going to be the extensor carpi radialis longus. Because that's a little bit higher. It actually comes up above that actual common extensor tendon area, the lateral epicondyle. So that's that muscle here that's bulging up right there. And that's going to go to the base of the second metacarpal, and the action is going to be extension of the wrist. Okay, is that going to do anything with the fingers? No, it just goes right in here. So that's going to be this tendon right there. If you follow your second metacarpal right at the base, and then you resist right there, you can feel that's the tendon right there. And then extensor carpi radialis brevis, that's going to be the one that's going to go to the third metacarpal. So if you extend the wrist right there, that's the one that's going to go into the base of the third metacarpal. So that's where you get into this section of the muscles right here. Okay. So again, now here it's mentioning the action is the abduction of the wrist, which actually would be radial deviation. So again, muscles on this side are going to pull the wrist this way, muscles on this side are going to pull this way. Okay, so then here you have flexor carpi radialis, and then extensor carpi radialis, ulnaris, I'm sorry. Flexor carpi ulnaris and extensor carpi ulnaris, and those are both going to do ulnar deviation. So if you move your wrist like that, you can feel this tendon popping out right there, and then the tendon on the other side right here. And so then the same thing over here. But then now there's going to be a couple other tendons that relate to the thumb, and we'll get to those. And so now we're talking about extensor digitorum, so now we're moving a little bit farther down. So it's on that common extensor tendon, but it's starting to come a little bit farther down into the other bones here. Okay, so those are going to be the ones that extend the fingers. And then, you know, if you put your hand over your forearm like that and you extend your fingers like that, you can feel the muscle that is coming across more into this weight area here. So we're getting into this part here. So as we started over more lateral, you have the extensor carpi ulnaris and radialis, and then here you can feel the tendons as you move your fingers. Now, if you do them in order, you can feel it coming across like that. Okay. So then, of course, the action of that is going to be extension of the wrist and then also extension of the fingers, second to the fifth. And then, again, extensor carpi ulnaris, that's going to be this one right here. You feel the fifth metacarpal follow down to the base of it, and if you extend, you feel that tendon that's going right into the base. But it's not that, there's also the other tendons that keep going that go into the fingers. So it's not that one. If you feel deep, there's one that ends right there into the base of the fifth metacarpal. So then the action of that is going to be extension of the wrist, and then this is, everybody know what that abbreviation is? Extensor carpi radialis, and then flexor carpi ulnaris. All right, so just the same way that we had on the front side of the forearm, we have kind of a superficial layer and then a deeper layer. Now we're talking about the back side. We did more of the superficial muscles. Now we're going to talk about the deeper compartment, or the deeper layer of muscles, which is going to be the supinator. Then you're talking about muscles that go into the thumb, and then extensor indicus. So if we're talking about deeper muscles here, where do you think those are going to originate off of? Are they going to be off of this common extensor tendon, or are they going to be more in the mid part of the forearm on the radius and the ulnar and the interosseous membrane? Yeah. So there's going to be the supinator. So it's coming off of, in this case, it does have a little bit of origin on the lateral condyle. And then also we're getting more into the proximal ulna. So it's coming off of this area here, and then it's coming across to the radius. So what it does is it pulls like this, so it's going to do supination. Okay? So the supinator muscle does the supination, and what are the muscles that pull it the other way to do pronation? There's two of them. Yeah, pronator quadratus and pronator teres. And then again, so the supinator, the other muscle that does supination is what? Biceps. Yeah, brachioradialis does, but like I say, it's not a prime mover. It'll bring the hand back to this position. So it'll do supination. If it's pronated, it'll bring it up to here. If it's supinated, brachioradialis will bring it to here. So now we're talking about abductor pollicis longus. So that's going to originate on the mid part of the radius here. And the ulna. This is showing more on the ulna. But again, so I mean, this is out of a different book, so sometimes they don't always agree, like I said. But the basic concept is that it's going to be off of the combination of the radius and the ulnar, and sometimes in the interosseous membrane.